Welcome. It's the end of February and it's time for another round of social media updates. So thank you for joining us. If you're joining us live, please do use the live chat on your screen. We keep an eye on that as we go through the session. We love to hear your thoughts on what we're talking about and any questions that you might have. If you're watching the recording, thank you for doing that. You can also keep commenting on the LinkedIn event post. So there's always lots for us to talk about. I think there was 1 week this month that was like, oh, not much has gone on, but there's still lots of data and insights for us to talk about today. And as a caveat, Andy and I read social media news all day, every day. We do other stuff around it as well, but that is one of the things that we do.
We live.
I think we're just early starters and, first thing of the day. So we run these sessions. We've been doing them for over 5 years now because we're reading this. So we try and do a 1 hour roundup because we know how busy you all are. So we try and do some of the groundwork for you. There is lots in this session. It is not meant to overwhelm you. It's meant to just help you stay in the know and take from it what you need. Should we share? I think we've got, you can get a copy of these slides as well as watching back the recording. So scan the old QR code and we will make sure that you get a copy of the slides from this session and other sessions if you want them as well. If we haven't met before, this is us. You can see us at the front of a packed out room. More on that in a second. If you would like to connect with us, those QR codes are for our LinkedIn profiles. I'm a marketing consultant. I spend my days with a whole mixture of working with clients, advising them, working on projects. I also speak at events. I was at international a few sessions, so thank you for coming along. And I also do a lot of teaching and training on this topic and writing about it as well. I was just telling Andy, got 1 book in progress. We're about 3 months away from finishing writing it and a couple more in conversation at the moment. So got myself on a bit of a cycle of writing.
Yeah, which is mightily impressive, as I keep on telling you. 1 book is hard enough. And writing, I don't know. How many have you done so far and how many are in the works?
4 full books out, 1 chapter of a book. So 5 out and then 3 in the works.
Wow, there you go. That is a prolific writer for you. So very impressive. Oh, whilst doing a PhD as well. So full credit to you on that one.
Thank you.
And we've not yet met. My name's Andy. For the last 10, 15 years, I lose count now. I'm getting too bald and old now. But I've been in social media for far too long, building businesses that build social media technologies, have to spend a lot of time working directly with the social media networks, which is both a privilege and sometimes a bit of a curse, which also means that's why we have to keep on top of this stuff. So everything I've built over the career, like companies I've built and sold, it's all been related to social media. So I've always had to stay as close as I can to it. And now working for Adobe, we work very closely, as you can imagine, with all the social platforms. So it definitely pays to stay on top of it. But as Luan's already mentioned, only a selection of the things that we're going to talk about today, and this is a fast-paced, high energy session. Only a few of these things we'll talk about will be relevant to you, right? So we don't need to be everywhere, right? Our job as marketers, business owners, whatever, our job is to focus, is to double down on the things that are working well and start to experiment. Use 20% of our time to experiment with other areas. And this session's designed to give you that kind of baseline understanding what's happening in the world of social, so you can think about, is my strategy correct? Do I need to tweak and change things? And you might get some extra tips through this. So talking about tips and strategies and things you can learn, we haven't we've barely started promoting this yet because it feels like it's a lifetime away. Although November will quite sadly be upon us very, very soon. So on the 12th of November, Luan and I are again putting together the B2B Social Day Forum for anyone that works in B2B, because quite frankly, B2B is often unloved when it comes to social. People that work in B2B social are often underappreciated. There's not enough investment in this space. So this is an opportunity to kind of shine a light on the opportunity that exists in B2B social media and marketing more broadly, something that Luan and I are deeply passionate about. my businesses could have never have grown so fast without social media. It's a core part of our growth strategies, and we really want to shine a light on where all those opportunities are. So tickets will generally go on sale very soon. We've got some. I'm so rubbish with paying attention to this stuff, Luan. So you probably tell me about the stuff.
Super early bird tickets are on sale now. I will put a link in the comments. We are very close to finalising our agenda and speakers, but we're not going to reveal our cards on that too early, but just trust us. If you look at the website and the gallery and the feedback from last year, it was a brilliant day. We'll be hosting at the same venue, which is in Shoreditch, London, a full day event, which is a mixture of short presentations, fireside chats, panel discussions, Q&A. People last year said they felt more confident, they felt heard, they felt inspired. So yeah, I can't wait for November to come round.
Yeah, I love that day.
Yeah.
And also, final thing before we get into it, I speak about this product quite a lot, and now they've sponsored this this roundup. So and it's quite easy to have a sponsor when you use the product yourself and you know the value. So I've mentioned this before, and definitely something I'd recommend everyone trying and thinking about as part of a broader social strategy. Social listening is fundamental to how we grow our brands on social. So as you know, I've always spoken about this through the lens of share of voice, and I first started using Mentionlytics purely because I needed a most cost-effective way to see how my business, Content Cal, was tracking relative to Hootsuite, because we know the people that win from a share of voice perspective is the ones that win in the market. So you get more people talking about you, your brand will grow faster than others. That is the fundamental of marketing and social media. Nothing matters other than that. And now they've got a whole heap stronger. So now you can monitor on Blue Sky, which is very cool. So if you're in a space where you started to see your audience going into Blue Sky, now we can understand more about what's happening on there. And, you know, even though I've always understood the value of social media listening, I've mostly cared about share of voice, so the aggregated view, right? Because I'm not a man for the detail. Because like it can be so darn noisy, because everything that's happening in a market, it's kind of overwhelming. So fortunately, now what we've seen is that Mentionlytics have improved this with some like high level AI and sentiment analysis, which now starts to detect sarcasm and some of the stuff that it's been quite hard to determine whether that's positive or negative sentiment. All of this is really important to start up leveling social and how social is perceived within an organization, which is all part of the reason why we were doing this event in November again, because we need to think about social more broadly. We need to think about it from first principles perspective. Social is fundamental to how a business grows. So we need to make sure that we can up-level this through understanding share of voice, through understanding sentiment, what's happening in the market. And that's the thing that will allow us to talk to our clients or leadership teams with a matter of like, actually social is more important than people are giving it credit for. And this helps us up-level it. And something else that helps up-level it in our mind, again, if you're not one for getting in the weeds of the detail, because certainly I'm not. So this kind of like AI exec summaries, like here's what's happening in your market. These are the things you need to pay attention to. Like that is such a boon for us as social media marketers and business builders. So yeah, go check it out. I think, Luan, they've given us some kind of code, right?
Yeah, I've just popped it in the chat. We've got a discount code. So if you trial Mentionlytics, if you start that trial in the next couple of days, if you go on to purchase, you can get 20% off for 6 months. And I'll just add to this, Andy, because I hosted a workshop earlier this week about social media listening. So a group of us spent 90 minutes together thinking about social media listening and how, you know, so often our jobs that involve social media seems to focus on posting and getting things out there. Sometimes we think social media listening is about the notifications and the mentions, but we were able to like dive much more into it and have a think about how could this help us to see if something's happening, you know, like early crisis management, reputation management, campaign impact, content ideas, as well as a whole kind of sentiment share of voice. So it sometimes feels like it's something on our wish list, but with tools like Mentionlytics, we can get started on this quite quickly and find some really cool stuff and share that with our colleagues as well. So we can shift from reporting on things like, oh, this post got this many likes and things, to actually, this is what happened. And we've come up with this idea because we've identified this conversation and make more impact on our work, which infinitely is a lot more interesting.
Yep. Amen to all of that. Your mic's making a bit of noise. I don't know
Okay.
if your kind of mic is hitting something, but just FYI. But anyway, let's get into it today. That's all the preamble done. Let's hit it. I think we'll be very good for time. We'll get you out of here before the top of the hour. So, Luan, take us away.
So we have our favourite report this month. Data Reportal is back. If you haven't, you will have seen this before. You can't not have seen these slides because these have been available for over 10 years now, freely available on datareportal.com. I'll pop it in the chat after I finish talking. They update this quarterly, and it's always a big update at the beginning of the year. In fact, the overall slide deck is now, I think, 600 slides long. It comes directly from the social media platforms and the credible sources as well. So this is the go-to. And the go-to stats for February, actually, even Data Reportal said no significant differences this quarter. So no big changes apart from, inevitably, social media use keeps on growing. 63.9% of the global population are using social media. We're spending on average 2 hours, 21 minutes a day on these platforms. We're all above average if we work in this world, but the average user, 2 hours, 21, and now using 6.8 different social media platforms. So that number has gone up by 0.1 over the last couple of months. Maybe because of the addition of Threads and Blue Sky, but 6.8 different social media platforms means, we'll come on to this, you might find yourself on more than one social media platform. You might be thinking you need to be on every social media platform. You can't. You will find your audience somewhere in that 6.8. This does alter slightly depending on demographics. So our younger age groups are on slightly more social media platforms, around the 7.76, and towards our older age groups, our boomers, just over 3.6 different social media platforms. So we do need to bear in mind, the older our audiences, the less social media platforms they are on. They are likely to be quite loyal to the platforms that they started out on. I would hazard a guess that Facebook appears much more towards the upper end of that scale, but it is still relevant and where younger age groups are as well. There's so much you can dive into behind this if you go to that website. Social media platform use, I've just pulled out a few of the slides from this 600 deck to really confirm, and this one always seems to take people by surprise when I present it in workshops and talks. Facebook is still the most used social media platform. This is based on active users. Facebook at the top, followed by YouTube. The order of these hasn't varied significantly for a number of years. Then we've got Instagram and WhatsApp and TikTok. Anyone staring at their screens, LinkedIn is not on here because they report their data slightly differently. They've got 1 billion users now, so probably towards the bottom of this chart in terms of actives. But don't forget, it's Meta at the top.
Very much so. I'm going to go through some data now because our friends at Metrical put out what I think is a very, very valuable report. Whilst I do that, Luan, I think your mic might be dying. So
Okay.
yeah, you
I'll
might
switch.
need to unplug your headphones thing whilst I do this. Cool. Always a joy. All right, cool. So what's the best platform for reach for small accounts? Now, what I loved about this report from Metrical is that they looked at this and segmented it across those accounts with smaller numbers of followers and those with mid to large numbers of followers, because naturally these dimensions change when we look at what's the kind of performance we get from these accounts and these channels when we have different size social media channels. So I think this is a really important way of looking at it. And what this data is saying is, what's the best platform for reach, particularly for small accounts? So ultimately, are we reaching more people than that, who don't follow us, right? So Insta Reels, this was performing really, really well. And if we looked back, these sessions that we did 12 months ago, that was really strong. So we could get lots of free reach because Instagram was pushing Reels incredibly heavily. So even if we had a handful of followers, we would reach lots of people, right? As Instagram was very keen on recommending it. This doesn't mean that Instagram Reels is dead or anything in like those absolute terms. It just means that we're starting to see the reach of Instagram Reels for smaller accounts start to decline and come back a bit. But the interesting thing here, as you can see, because this is a chart that goes off the chart, is YouTube Shorts is incredibly strong for this. We've been talking about this for a long time, that so many businesses sleep on YouTube. There is so much opportunity that exists there. And YouTube are in very much a competition to take some of TikTok and Instagram Reels market share. And they're doing a wonderful job with it too. So there's a lot of opportunity that exists on YouTube Shorts. And yeah, definitely potentially something for you to think about. So let's look at engagement. So that's reach, right? So we always knew that short form video is best for reach, and clearly YouTube performing incredibly well there. But what about engagement? And let's stick with those smaller accounts here. So what are the accounts that are generating the most likes, interactions, comments, shares, whatever? So naturally, this is where we get like the depth of audience engagement. And always, I always talk about the kind of overlapping Venn of what a successful post or a strategy looks like, where you've got on one side, we want to look for reach. We want to try and reach as many people as possible. And we also want to make sure that we're driving as much engagement as possible too. So whatever kind of is in the middle of those overlapping circles is where we get success. So looking here, where we're seeing any channels that are yielding really good engagement means that it's fantastic for us to help target the right people. The algorithm's working well. So here we can see that LinkedIn is performing very well. Interesting to see how high Facebook is there. Now, typically we don't really talk about that much, right? Because, we've kind of evolved from the days of Facebook and we've kind of got a bit bored of talking about it. But certainly in the advent of Facebook Reels, for example, Facebook are starting to represent a bit more of an opportunity for businesses. As Luan shared, like 3 billion active users. So it's rather sizable. So, and again, this is where you can start to see the split between our post formats is something we need to consider when we want to drive the right impact with our posts. So if we want to reach people, let's take Instagram. Like we said this same thing last month. If we're looking at reaching more people, then Instagram Reels is better for us. But if we're looking at driving more engagement with our follower base, then that's where Instagram feed performs better. So it's about trying to think about what are the things I need to achieve for my business? What am I looking to do across my social channels? And both what is the right platform and the right format for that? So that's my take on this. But what would you add to this, Luan?
There's a couple of comments in the chat around, is this B2B and B2C? Yes, I think it is a global overview. Is it from Facebook posts? Is it from profiles or pages? I don't know the answer, but I expect it will be from pages because that data is more publicly available than people's personal profiles. But what I particularly like about this slide is that we are starting to see the different data about the different types of posts on a platform. So Instagram Reels, Facebook posts, Facebook Reels. And I think this is something that's really important as well. It's quite hard for us. We've gone from the days of talking about social media as one thing to talk about individual platforms, but now within the platforms to be talking about the different types of posts as well, because each of them represent different opportunities. So I like this.
Yeah, really good report.
Yep.
Continuing with this, because then if we look at larger accounts, broadly it reflects the same, but interestingly, you'll notice that smaller accounts on LinkedIn, you'll notice that the above below average ranking is incredibly high, but it's following the very similar pattern, although you can see X slips behind when you start to look at larger accounts. And just anecdotally, what we've heard from the smaller community that we have on WhatsApp for our B2B marketing friends, I've started to see people start to report really positive signals on X. We stopped talking about it for a while for obvious reasons. But, since that algorithm shift to focus on more positive content, the shift towards more video content and being video first, yeah, perhaps it's unvalidated. It's not like I've only seen like 3 people's examples, so it's not statistically significant. But perhaps, X, like I said, nothing's like nothing's dead and nothing's a new thing. I don't like those absolute terms, but yeah, clearly people are seeing better opportunities and results from X at the moment.
Yeah.
Short form video. I think this is probably the least surprising slide of all time, right? Short form video continues to grow. There you go. I think I don't really need to talk about that one really, because we all knew that. We all know that's the opportunity that's in front of us to drive reach. We all know that people are across multiple different platforms as well. We know that video is the thing that retains the largest number of users. We know it's the thing that platforms are focusing on the most. So realistically, it needs to be a fundamental part of our strategy, because if the platforms are focusing on it, if it's driving the platforms business models forward, which is all, it's they're in the attention business. So if it's driving their business forward, they're going to push it. And if they push it, it means that we go along for the ride. So that's where the opportunity exists. That's why we're seeing, Insta Reels drive good reach. We're seeing TikTok do the same. And of course, YouTube Shorts, as we've spoken about. Anything else to add?
Well, and LinkedIn in short form video.
Right, yes.
We've got that as updates coming forward. But, Andy, that's where you post your videos. So LinkedIn are also in on this game now as well.
Yeah, very good call out. And timely, because that's what we're going to talk about next. So I shared this on LinkedIn a little while ago, and I think there's a lot of kind of interesting, different, polar opposite views of where LinkedIn is at the moment. A lot of people saying, getting a lot less engagement, less likes, etc., and interactions are down, is what people have been saying. But from Metrical's research, doesn't reflect the same. For me personally, I'd be interested to get takes from people that are on this call, and yourself as well, Luan. Like for me personally, I have seen overall likes go down. Maybe people are less inclined to like. I don't know. Which always feels, as much as you don't want it to, always feels a bit disappointing. But impressions are way up. It's insane the number of people that content reaches now. So that's my top level. So the dimensions have changed, but this data shows that it's all up across the board. So it just goes to show about aggregated data versus individual experiences don't always map. But I think a very interesting thing here is we all know consistency is the thing that drives success. We get that. And it's interesting to always call out the fact that the thing that stops people from being successful on social is the act of just doing it, because so few people on LinkedIn actually do. They have such a shortage of content. That's why there's such great attention arbitrage opportunities here. So that's my take. Thoughts from you, Luan? And I can't see the chat as well, so interesting.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. There's one question I'll go back to. What is our definition of short form? At the moment, we're using 3 minutes as our definition of short form content. Launching games is interactive for people on LinkedIn, but as you said, some people love it, Lizzie, some people not so sure. I'm not really doing video content on LinkedIn at the moment. I'm sticking to my trail of what I do. And you're right, I think consistency is the key word here. Just keep showing up, keep storytelling, involve people in what you're doing. But in terms of engagement, we've seen this before, and Andy, you and I have talked about this. If you do something kind of personal, here's a selfie, this is what I'm working on, it's really easy for people to get engaged with it, to say congratulations, that's amazing, have conversations. The minute you try and do the content that's kind of like the thought leadership, the ideas, the what do you think about this data, not everyone is comfortable about getting involved with that or sharing their thoughts or has the time to consider their responses. So I think overall my approach would be keep it mixed up, let people get to know you with what you're working on, where you are kind of content, but don't not do the stuff that doesn't necessarily get the high engagement, because a lot of people lurk on LinkedIn and might have those conversations with you in DMs and face-to-face. So keep showing up and be consistent and know what you want to be known for, I think would be my key success factors.
That is the hero statement right there. So +1 to that. Either way, LinkedIn, fantastic opportunity right now, whether you're doing video or not, looking like it's performing incredibly well. And I thought this was really, really cool and a really nice way. Luan and I always talk about this kind of stuff, thinking about what the right mix is, what your channel and platform strategy is, that kind of thing. And I thought this visual was actually really, really useful. So creds to Metrical for putting this together, because this goes back to the first point about thinking about what's our objective and what are the platforms, so Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, whatever, what are the platforms, and then the formats, video, carousel, etc., that help drive us towards that. So if top of funnel is all about becoming visible, discovery, driving reach, that's what we talk about. So here, what these numbers relate to is impressions per follower. So where you see a positive number that's above the baseline of 0, that means you're reaching more people than follow you, right? Which is something I've spoken about for a long time, of where there's such significant opportunity for those more algorithmically driven platforms like, Insta Reels or TikTok, for example, where it doesn't matter if you have a handful of followers, you're going to reach new people, because that's what the platform's designed to do. It's designed as an entertainment platform to serve your content to people who it deems it's relevant for. And that's why you're seeing, particularly on this and short form video, why you're seeing such a positive correlation, where you're going to be reaching more people than follow you. So that's all about top of funnel. Short form video is the ultimate top of funnel, but like LinkedIn is kind of bucking the trend, sneaking in here, because across all formats rather, it's performing well. Middle of funnel, create conversions. This is all about engagement rates. We all know about that anyway. So we've already just spoken about what the platforms that's driving strong engagement rates. Facebook has surprised us today. We all know that LinkedIn has been doing very well. And for a long time, TikTok has reigned supreme in terms of overall engagement rate. So TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube really strong across like discovery and engagement. So both top and middle of funnel. And then clicks against posts. I didn't actually show this report today, but one of the metrical reports was what platforms drive the most clicks. And as you can see here, these are the 4 that drive the most clicks. But it is worthwhile saying that, the ratio, whilst these numbers are very positive, the ratio is actually tiny. Very few people are clicking links on social platforms to take them elsewhere, right? So we just need to think carefully about that. So my main kind of takeaway from this slide, focus on the top and middle of the funnel, because that's where social is most successful. I'm going to pause there because that's a long waffle from me. What about you, Luan?
I think my takeaway is a social media post cannot do everything in one go. If it's the first post they see, you're not going to get a buy or a conversion off it. So do consider, when you're creating your content plans and your social media posts specifically, like, what is the purpose of this? Is this for people that aren't really aware of me and I want them to get to know me, my brand, my product, a bit more about me? Or is this for people who are already aware? I'm reminding them I'm here, and what I work on, and how I can help through to the conversion, which could be a link click to come to a webinar, to come to an event, to sign up for a download. Don't try and do everything in one post. You've got to take people on a journey with you.
Yeah, I love that.
Same for ads, not just organic, but ads as well. You can't do everything in one ad.
Great call.
I love this one, Andy. Can I talk about Threads?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, do.
I think I mentioned last month about Threads. It's something that I've been watching for a while, was waiting to get involved with it. And I think if we go back to Facebook, part of that success is about groups and communities. Threads is being X for engagement, because what I'd been observing on Threads was that there was some communities grouped together by topics where people are really engaged in it. And this is what the stats say. And as Andy mentioned very briefly, I've just enrolled on a PhD. I'm in my first month, loving it so far. For anyone that's thinking about it, happy to chat. But I'd identified on Threads there is a lot of PhD chat, positive challenges, etc. So I've joined that chat, and I've already made some friends and had virtual coffees. Not big numbers, but really focused on, this is what I want to do on the platform. I've identified this conversation is happening, and I'm getting involved with it by following people, messaging, etc. So find the place for you, for your goal.
I love that. I think that's such a important case study or example there, Luan, because, and your point about like find the right action for your goal, is that if you're just looking at driving top of funnel numbers, Threads is not going to be the place for you. But like, if you want to invest the time in saying, okay, let me try and find my target audience, and especially since You just called it out there, since Threads have only just rolled out the opportunity for you to follow certain topics in the app as well. I think now Threads is getting to a point where it's starting to feel like more of a community orientated platform where there's people are clustering around certain topics, and that's going to drive engagement and interaction, that kind of thing. So yeah, I hadn't heard or thought about like the parallel to Threads and Facebook groups. So yeah, maybe this is the future of those kind of smaller, more close-knit communities, as we've been talking about for a long time. Social media is increasingly getting more fragmented, and those private communities are growing.
Which reinforces going back to the 6.8. For me, Threads has one role. For me, LinkedIn has another, Instagram has another, and that's what most users have as well. That's why we're not putting all of our eggs into one social media platform, because we have different needs, different conversations that work differently across different platforms.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I'm just going to touch on this because we're going to talk about, we're talking about micro communities and how social media is becoming more fragmented. Reddit is one of those, as daily active users continues to grow. But we've spoken about this before, so I'm not going to wang on too much about this one. But micro communities, finding where your audience are coalescing around the topics that you care deeply about, that is such an important piece of how we can drive success on social. The conversation around our industry, our market, our category is already happening. It's our job to go find those circles that it's happening within and get ourselves involved in that conversation, because social media isn't just about the posts that we create and the posts that we publish. I think that's a very consistent theme of what we've been talking about today. And we've been, is anyone bored of engagement rate chat yet?
No, it's what we want.
Yeah. So I think this really articulates it when you start to see them kind of lined up, though. So engagement rates, we know engagement rates are particularly strong on TikTok. Again, this is another report showing this. It would be lovely to see Threads, actually. Threads isn't reporting data in the same kind of way yet, but hopefully they will. But what this data is saying to us is that engagement rates are pretty strong across these. These are the ones that are most positive at the moment, but TikTok is still, like I said earlier, reigning supreme for engagement rates. Right then, should we hit some new features, Luan?
Yes. There was a lot of data to talk about this month, so we skewed it towards that. But of course, we have got some new features, and we'll go platform by platform through them. So starting off with Meta, no surprise. Oh, we haven't mentioned AI for 35 minutes. AI features continue to evolve on the social media platforms, and on Meta, it is still about transparency labels, making sure that if you are using AI, that you are being transparent about it when you're adding your content and letting people know. Instagram, few changes here. For those that prefer to use a desktop versus a mobile app, you've now got access to more features on the desktop, and that's now that professional dashboard with your insights and suggestions. You can access it on a big screen. Carousel Reels. I think this is particularly interesting that Instagram are experimenting with different formats in the Reels tab. For me, they've moved things about in the app so much. They had different places for different video lengths at one stage. So why they're experimenting with different formats in the Reels tab, I don't know. But we do also know that they advised a few months ago that if you added music to your carousel, that would be considered as a reel. So maybe they're just trying to get more content into reels, which is where people are spending their time. So we're going to be seeing like multiple videos, multiple images in a single post. And I suspect that also lends itself to the fact that Instagram are shifting their short form from 90 seconds up to 3 minutes as well. Give us a bit more content in that part of the app.
Agreed. Although I think this makes a lot of people shudder at the production needs on this. Creating a 90-second video or even a 30-second video is hard enough. Creating a carousel of them can be slightly challenging. But what I also saw is that they're experimenting with this as an ad format too. So that's going to be very interesting. But Reels is more than just one single, 30 to 90 seconds. Yeah, so very interesting.
Yeah. Also interesting, we see Meta all the time, cross-promoting between their apps, in particular driving us to Threads. threads, but now having a WhatsApp sticker in our Instagram stories is another interesting shift for engagement and conversations. We also know that Instagram have told us over recent months it's much more about sharing with your friends, behind the scenes engagement. So being able to push that to WhatsApp now, I think is an interesting move. Beefing up DMs on Instagram. This is like various features now in your DMs, whether it's translations, sharing music with your friends, what you're listening to, being able to schedule DMs. And I was struggling to think of a reason for this, but for super organized people, it did say that you can like schedule your birthday messages to your friends, etc. Not sure how many people would do that, but there is that option. Maybe it's more about engaging with influencers out of hours. Also, the ability to now invite people to a group chat through the use of a QR code to make it easier. And I did just double check on this. You can have 250 people in a group chat on Instagram. So that QR code, if you're at an event, doing an online event or a face-to-face event, and you want to build a community around it, that's going to make things a whole lot easier to do on Instagram.
I think it's a really good call out. And I didn't know about the group chat limit, actually. I think it's, thanks for sharing that. Because I think, just related to the WhatsApp update and this update, I think this allows us to think about social from a more kind of narrow community building perspective. And in the same that, you and I run a WhatsApp community, right? So, and we know that more people in stories are wanting to take those kind of more private orientated actions off the back of, any posts that they see. So thinking about how you can create those smaller, more niche communities, whether it's like, a group of your, most engaged users of your product, whether it's, a group like you said, Luan, like a group of influencers, ambassadors or advocates that you have, finding those spaces where you can connect with those people regularly and grow those kind of smaller groups could really be an interesting angle to use this through a business lens. Because like you, I struggled. I looked at this, I was like, how does that work from a business perspective? I get it when you're messaging your mates, but like, how can we use this to benefit our businesses, which is a lens that you and I look at this through. So I think there's some interesting opportunity here.
Definitely. Testimonial ads, I really like this. This feels a little bit like taking the LinkedIn thought leader ads where you're promoting an individual, being able to kind of involve other people in your advertising content. This is where you can add a paid like comment effectively. So maybe from an influencer or an advocate, you could now pin a paid testimonial comment within an ad.
Yeah, I really like this. It's very cool.
LinkedIn have made some great changes in the past few weeks, which we're really happy about. Not surprising, this article to start with first, video. They really are leaning into video. Video viewership does continue to rise. It's that short form content. Over the period when they looked at this data, it's increased by 36% year over year. So if you're not doing video on LinkedIn yet, it might be something you need to add into your mix at some point. And that's also because the large video display is coming to desktop. So originally the video content was along the bottom of the mobile app. We are now seeing more of it on desktop and it taking up more space as well. So more impact. Newsletter stats. Both, I think, big fans of the LinkedIn newsletter feature, whether you are repurposing something that you're already doing on email over into LinkedIn, an exact replica or a different version, or whether you have a different format for a LinkedIn newsletter. I launched my own a couple of months ago. The stats are incredible in terms of the growth, but now being able to actually add and see email sends. So this is people receiving it in their email inbox and email open rates as well. We're getting more data on this format. You can advertise this format as well, something again, which I trialed. So yeah, always a big fan of more data, but particularly more features around the LinkedIn newsletters. And this is the one, Andy and I were talking about this before we started. Andy, do you want to take this one because you spotted it?
Yeah, I thought I'd missed this, but clearly I might have been in the early beta group for this. But it looks like more people are getting access to this now, which is great. So we can see the impact of our comments. As we know, we've heard this a million times, commenting is really important. And again, thinking beyond just what we're putting out and posting on social is incredibly important. And I think this had always been a bit of like a hidden dark corner of like, we know comments are important, and we could see on like our profile stats, like where people were discovering us from, whether it's from comments, etc. But it always seemed kind of hard to grasp truly the impact that comments were having on our growth. So now we can see the impressions that are being driven. How many times are we appearing in other people's feeds relative to that particular comment? As you can see, I got the grand total of 1 like on that comment. So clearly the impressions are not huge. But for meaningful and relevant comments, then, you know, one could assume that, and I'd be interested to see if this actually plays out, is that if you get a comment that's performed really well, where you've got a really interesting maybe counterpoint or build on what you're commenting on, and you get 30 plus likes on it, which is pretty significant, you'll likely see those impressions increase. And then you'll start to get featured as well. I don't know if you recall, whenever you're using LinkedIn, like sometimes I'll see that, oh, Luan commented on a post, which is another like way of getting discovered. So I think it's very, very important to consider this and think about our most relevant comments that add something very interesting to a conversation. And just as a side note, having an AI bot do the comment for you is probably not going to cut it. So at least not yet anyway. That's my take. Luan, what about you?
Yeah, I love this one. I'm a big fan of commenting. It's not just, again, about posting and running. It's about commenting on other people's, staying involved in your own posts as well. It's about added value comments, not just kind of like one word ones or one emoji ones. I think we want to see value in here. I'm going to share, you know, I had a post a few weeks ago that got lots of engagement, lots of comments. I followed those up in DMs, and I had 3 calls about it. So, you know, these are hugely valuable. Don't dismiss the opportunity to have conversations as a result of a LinkedIn post, whether it's your own or someone else's as well. You know, follow it up in the DMs as well as publicly. Must note that this impressions number, is only visible to you. So it's not visible to others. But if you are a company page admin, you will be able to see the total comment impressions for a post. So if you are coming from the, you know, marketing team, potentially as the company page administrator, using that metric potentially as like an employee advocacy prompt or metric, to see what's happening as well, I think is going to be useful. Improves post sharing on mobile. Again, I always talk about kind of like behind the scenes and messaging. Just, it's so much easier now. I actually did this yesterday. I saw a conversation in a thread, clicked the paper aeroplane, sent it to a friend and went, this is cool, have a look at this one, drove a conversation. We don't need to do everything in public, and the easier it is to have private messages, particularly on a mobile, because if you're scrolling through something when you're traveling or TV, etc., then, you know, it's a good thing. Someone's asked, if you don't pay LinkedIn, you don't get this detail. I don't think that's linked to a premium account, the impressions. It may just be if you don't see it yet, it's not rolled out.
Yeah, I'm not premium, and I see it. So
there you go.
It's coming. It's definitely rolling out more gradually.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, nice. Right. I was going to say if there's anything else you need to add, but how are we doing for time? We are rocking and rolling. Good stuff. All right. So let's touch on TikTok. So you've got some new playbooks here, which is an interesting way of giving you some ideas and some inspiration as to the kind of things that you could create. Now, TikTok is really clever at doing those things that help drive more interaction on the platform. Similar to this is that you'll see this in your creator insights. You'll see like there's some creation ideas that'll start building for you. So this gives us some more inspiration of the things that we could do on the platform. And also, like, we've got suggested and trending here. So TikTok is doing everything it can to try and allow more people to express themselves on the platform. So if you're ever struggling for creative inspiration, then they've got some really cool tools here. On to Threads. We spoke about this a second ago, actually. So we spoke about topics actually on Threads, but now we can also share custom feeds. Now, you might have done this back in the day on Twitter. I know I certainly did, where I'd create like a custom feed of people in marketing that I really wanted to follow, that I just regularly would consume. I'd spend most of my time looking at that custom feed rather than just looking at my generic feed, because it's like, this is my curated view of the people that I really wanted to pay attention to. So now we can do the same on Threads, and we can also share those custom feeds. So I think now, like, whilst Threads is much more of an intent-driven platform, and what I mean by this is that, you know, whereas TikTok, Insta Reels, they're entertainment platforms. They're for people sat on a sofa or when they're bored on a train, just to passively consume. That's typically where those platforms are orientating their short form video formats thing through. And that's the thing that's driving a lot of their economic engine right now, which is fine, that kind of entertainment first type of content. And in entertainment, I also would bucket edutainment, so things that are probably more relevant for businesses. But the reason I'm talking about this is, like, we're seeing that increasing fragmentation, or like two sides splitting of social, where you've got that one side algorithmic driven entertainment first content, and the other side more intent, more slower, more community focused, deeper interaction. And this is why, like, Threads won't get to 1 billion users. It's not going to be absolutely massive. It's not going to drive huge visibility, because it requires a lot more investment from a user to actually to care about this kind of stuff. And that's the thing, you just got to care about it, not just casually scroll. And that is okay. It just means that we need to think about both sides of that coin. How do we drive awareness through interesting things that's mostly video first? How do we drive that top of the funnel, as we're speaking about? And then how do we also think about that kind of slower, deeper connection? How do we build those relationships with the people that we really want to build relationships with? Like, you know, Luan, your example with, you know, fellow PhD students. So I think, yeah, it's all about thinking about our strategy from, again, as Luan already called out, that goal first mindset. And again, not trying to allow one single post to try and do it all. Hopefully that makes a degree of sense. Sorry for the slight tangent, but I think it was a really important, like, delineation of the overall direction that we're seeing social go into. There's a dedicated media tab on Threads now too. So depending on the kind of things that we want to see, then we can see that here. So again, giving more control to the users is what Threads is all about right now. And also, this is common on other platforms. Now we can do it. We can tag people in our photos too, again, enrolling other people as part of that conversation. Onto YouTube, which I think is the final one we're going to touch on too. Text to speech, I think we all know this anyway. So incredibly popular on TikTok, right? So those AI generated voiceovers, if we don't, and this is an important thing, because sometimes, you know, it's not all about just turning the camera around to your face and you talking. Not everyone's comfortable with that. But if we've got a good story to tell, we might just want to voice over it with text to speech. So now you can do this on YouTube. Also, when we're thinking about how we build a video too, when we think about certain like B-roll that we might want to include in our edit, now YouTube is adding this AI video option as well. Now it's worthwhile saying that most AI video right now is completely awful, unusable, a huge waste of time. You might as well just got some stock footage to get it done. But it's really important that we have that kind of open mindset to go, right now, probably not worth the time, but in future it's just gonna move so darn quickly. And I think this now again lowers the barrier to how we tell our stories through video, where, you know, we can have tools to help us create the script based on the thing that we want to talk about. We can get text to video, so if we're not so confident in front of camera, so sorry, speech to text rather, or text to speech. So we can do that to help us. I will get my words out eventually. And then also, you know, having these AI B-roll assisted type of workflows will really help us like collapse the barriers to entry for how we create video. So I'm really excited for how this all manifests in time. But yes, not all of this is ready for prime time right now. This is very cool though, and this will be known to everyone on this call, right? Pretty obvious, pretty easy to understand. This one is we can now quick promote our YouTube shorts. For what it's worth, I did this loads in the early days of TikTok, of a very similar thing, just to promote to grow followers. And it was a really effective use, probably cost me like 20, 30 quid. I put into it and it drove several thousand followers. And it was, yeah, really useful way of like building and getting your account off to a solid start. as we know, there's just so much upside and opportunity to YouTube Shorts at the moment. And with that, I think this is nearly record-breaking time. So, Luan, do you want to summarize some of these?
Yeah, I'll do a summary, and then we've got a couple of really great questions we'll pick up on. Do we need to say this? Short form video is where it's at, including on LinkedIn. And because we've had a couple of questions, we consider short form, not just us, YouTube and the other platforms, 3 minutes or less on short form video. It's winning for reach, but it's about engagement, smaller niche spaces, smaller groups. Big isn't always better. It's about finding the right places for your audiences and for your goals. Video, newsletters, comments are what's happening on LinkedIn. We're big fans of that. YouTube Shorts, again, short form continues to represent a big opportunity for brands over on YouTube. We probably have never talked about YouTube enough. Think about it. And as always, success will be gained for those that think beyond their feed. It's all about getting in front of your audience, all about mental availability, being front of mind for when the time is right. Thank you to Manos for correcting the link for Mention Analytics, our sponsor for today. So check out the link in the comments for get your trial sorted out. And if you want to go on to purchase, you can get a discount for 6 months. Couple of great questions. Tips on growing a LinkedIn company page. I'll share this because we've had this in our WhatsApp group, and we've talked about our WhatsApp group. That is for people that are attend our live event in November. We've got a WhatsApp group and people are asking those questions. My 2 things on this are, if you are a one-person business, don't worry about your company page, focus on your personal profile. What we've had around building your company page, get people to invite their connections. Maybe you need to add colleagues as a page admin, get them to invite their connections. Also consider a LinkedIn Premium company page account. I think it's $99 a month, but that has some great automation around it for people who are engaging with your company page content. It will automatically follow. And I know some great examples of people who are really building their following on that one. Colin, I've just seen your name in the chat. Lovely to see you. Thanks for coming to this one. I was talking about you with someone quite recently. Andy, I'm going to read this one out and get your take on this one. Ruth has read somewhere that LinkedIn recognizes the same group of invested employees, etc., liking, which reduces the engagement, the impact of their engagement. Not sure if it's true. Does the same few people pushing things along have an issue?
Great question. No, LinkedIn are not smart enough to recognize this yet. That's why engagement pods are still rife on the platform. Yeah. I think there's an interesting fine line, because engagement pods are a bad thing. Having a group of people comment on the same groups of people's posts, not really in the spirit of LinkedIn. It's all a bit falsified, really. Mm-hmm. But equally, though, it's more of a shame on the people that are doing it, because it helps no one, right? Because it just becomes an echo chamber for you. So you might feel good that your post got 100 likes, but if 100 likes is from people that are not in your target audience, then who cares? So I don't think there's any downside with having your company employees like it or anything like that. But to be honest with you, there's very little benefit in it either. My focus whenever I'm thinking about growing on LinkedIn is always, who can you elevate within a business? If you're a solo founder, agree with your point, Luan, forget the company page. Your personal brand will be stronger than the company's brand for a good while yet. And to be honest with you, even when we got to when we had raised our second round of funding, we were used by 35,000 businesses. The individuals that worked within the business were more recognizable than our company logo. So it's really important to think about actually, rather than just having people like a post, does it really do anything? Kind of not really. You want to think about first principles. You want to get the people that operate within the business to express a solid point of view on the industry and the market that you work within. And then, ideally, you'd promote those with thought leader ads, so you can actually get them doing something, get them in the right places at the right time, because just posting and getting other people to like it is not going to move the needle. You need to do something more impactful than that.
Yeah. I think what we're saying is, don't try and hack things. It's not worth it. It's all about quality engagement and some strategic thinking behind it as well. I think that's where I'll close today. So a huge thank you for watching. We have managed to fill our hour again. We will be back next month on the 27th of March. I'll set up the LinkedIn event later, invite some of you, or please do look out for it on our LinkedIn profiles. If you have any questions in the meantime, there is the chat will still be open on this event. We do keep an eye on it. We look at the comments and respond. So a big thank you, and we'll see you again next month.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.